Chris Bishop.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Look, pleasure to take a call on this important bill as part of the government's suite of measures to improve compliance with taxation law, but also deal with the issue of Auckland housing, or housing generally, but Auckland housing in particular. Sir, I wasn't on the Select Committee, much to my chagrin, for the consideration of this important bill. I was doing other things at the various meetings we had on it. But, Sir, I understand there was robust discussion at the Select Committee, I think it would be fair to say, about this bill. But I think we have landed as a committee generally in the right place on this. And I think that this is going to make a difference, Sir, to the things that it's trying to do. I want to briefly mention a couple of things in my remarks. The first is about one of the points of contention that came out during the Select Committee process and was adverted to by Mr Robertson in his remarks and then again by Mr Nash just a few moments ago. And this is around the definition of the main home in the bill. And we heard some cantankerous and wild claims from Stuart Nash that MPs who come to Wellington and rent an apartment or buy an apartment or buy a flat to be in Wellington while the house sits. We heard from Mr Nash that they could classify this as the main home, that it was all about where you had the greatest connection to, and that MPs could simply say, oh, well, I've got a great connection to my little Kelburn villa or my little Petone cottage or something like that, sir. And then we also heard from Stuart Nash that MPs' batches generally from people, or cribs as I understand they call them down south, could be classified as the main home. But actually, if Mr Nash had bothered to read the bill, bothered to read the piece of legislation, he would know that the main home is defined as the residence mainly used as a residence by the person and with whom the person has the greatest connection. And I would suggest to the House, sir, that MPs who come to Wellington for 9 days every month or 10 months of the year, that is not the main residence that people have in a city, sir, and they don't have the greatest connection. So it fails both the limbs of the test, sir. And likewise, too, sir, in terms of a batch that someone might go to, as I'm looking forward to at the end of the year, sir, heading away for the summer and heading away for a couple of weeks. That is not the main residence that people have, sir, and indeed that is not, I would venture to suggest, the place that people have the greatest connection to. So there was a lot of hot air from Mr Nash, as is often the case, a lot of hot air from Grant Robertson, somewhat witty, a good speaker, but actually when you look beneath the kind of hot air, beneath the surface, sir, there was not a lot of substance to that argument. Sir, it is true to say, I've just given you 3 minutes of substance, Claire Curran, which is more than I think we've had from Claire Curran in 11 months of this year, I think it's fair to say, sir. Anyway, I do want to address the issue of whether or not the test to do with main home is actually defined in law at the moment. And it is true to say that it is not. But that is not unusual, sir. We are making new law. That is what Parliament does. It makes new law. And oftentimes it will refer back to existing definitions, and sometimes it won't. But I've actually taken the trouble to talk to the officials about this. And actually, the phrase with whom the person has the greatest connection, has been carefully chosen. Why? Because it reflects existing case law. So while it's true to say, sir, that this bill does not reflect existing statutory law, because it's a new piece of legislation, it's like going back to Laws 101, dealing with members opposite sometimes, it is true to say that this reflects existing case law, sir, and judges in the courts will be applying this law, and obviously they will have reference to the existing case law that exists on this particular issue, sir. So I think that deals with the issue of the main home definition. Sir, just in closing, what did Labour members say on this bill? What did Grant Robertson say? Well, they said it was token. They said it was political to go into Parliament and advance a piece of legislation to make it political. Gee, what a shocker. They said it was half-hearted. They said it was half-measured. They said we needed to go further, that something more must be done. So the only conclusion to draw from all of this, from Grant Robertson's speech and from Stuart Nash's speech, is that the Labour Party has yet to recant on its promises around a capital gains tax. Because the problem for the Labour Party is that Andrew Little won the leadership of the Labour Party, supported by 3 or 4 of his colleagues only. Andrew Little won the leadership of the Labour Party on the promise of getting rid of Labour's capital gains tax policy. But now we find his colleagues, Grant and Stuart, and no doubt Claire to come, and Chris Farfoy, and Megan Woods, and Reno Tirakatane, and maybe even the future Mayor of Auckland, Phil Goff, they are going to turn up and they're going to say, this is a half measure. We need to go further. We need to tax capital properly. We need to tax property. We need to tax speculators. That's what they're going to say, sir. They have not learned the lessons of the last election, or indeed the lessons of the 2011 election, sir. Sir, this is a good bill. It's a sensible bill, and I commend it to the House.
I'll call Eugenie Sage.